Hey, 7th grade. This is your language lesson for Monday, April the 13th. Language lesson 1 of book 710 is due on this date, and lesson number 2 is due on Tuesday, April 14th. We are first of all going to look at lesson 2, and then we're going to go back and grade lesson 1. Make sure that you are finished with lesson 1 before you watch this video, because we are going to carefully grade parts of lesson 1, and that will be a grade that you turn in at the end of the week then. All right? But let's look at lesson 2 first. Page 4 has to do with adverbs. What is an adverb? An adverb is a word that modifies verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. All right? They answer the question. I'm getting all turned around. I don't know where to be. Adverbs answer the question about the words they modify: how, when, where, sometimes why, and to what extent. When they modify verbs, they can come anywhere in the sentence. They can come before the verb, they can come right after, they can come later, wherever, before or after the verb. When they modify adjectives and other adverbs, they come right before the word that they modify. All right? Common ones, common adverbs that modify adverbs and other adjectives and other adverbs: to, very, he moved very slowly. Slowly would be modifying the verb moved. Very is modifying slowly. Okay? Very slowly, not very moved. Very slowly. So that would be an adverb modifying an adverb. So just check that out a little bit. Make sure you can see that on your video. And then let's look at the lesson a little bit and talk about some adverbs. So lesson 2, number 2, underline the adverbs. Draw an arrow to each of the word that it modifies. Y words, ly words, y words, you should check those out. Not is always an adverb. Okay, not is an adverb. Too, too slowly, too, very, some of those are always adverbs. Watch the prepositions, that when they are not with a prepositional phrase, they are adverbs. Down. He went down. All right? That is going up. There's no phrase up the river, just up, down, over. Those by themselves are adverbs, where they're going. It's telling where. So look for verbs and ask how, when, or where. Look for adjectives and see if there's words that modify it. So number 2, the newspaper has photographs of very extravagantly decorated palaces in Iraq. Well, there you see the word very. Very is always an adverb. Very is modifying what? So you would underline very, put an arrow to extravagantly. Extravagantly is an adverb modifying decorated. What is decorated in this case? The very extravagantly decorated palaces. Decorated looks like a what? He decorated the cake. But it is not a verb in this case. In this case, it's an adjective or a participle. So you have very, an adverb modifying an adverb extravagantly, which is modifying the adjective decorated. So underline very and extravagantly and put arrows to the word they modify. Number 4. Tomorrow we are going to the craft fair. Any word in there that says how, when, where. Tomorrow says when we are or are going. Are going would be the verb. So you would underline tomorrow and put an arrow to are or going or both. Either one is fine. So those are adverbs. Number 5, 6, and 7 talk about the adverbs and the prepositions. So if it has a phrase with it, let's just look at 6. Choose whether or not the underlined word is an adverb or a preposition. Hannah lives 3 blocks past the railroad tracks. Right? Past the railroad tracks is a prepositional phrase, so past in this case is a preposition. So you figure out whether or not down and up in numbers 5 and number 7 are prepositions or adverbs. I'll give you a hint. A preposition always has to have a phrase. So if it's the last word of a sentence, it cannot be a preposition because a preposition has to have an object of the preposition. So number 5, maybe the down there is a what? Adverb. Prepositional phrases that modify verbs and sometimes adjectives. Okay? Prepositional phrases modify verbs and adjectives and sometimes adverbs. I don't know if I've ever seen one that modifies an adverb. It doesn't happen very often. Mostly they modify verbs, but sometimes they can modify adjectives, like especially the predicate adjective. So let's just check them out. Put parentheses around only the adverb phrases. And they again modify, answer the questions how, when, where, why, to what extent. If they modify the verb, they can come anywhere in the sentence. If they are modifying an adjective or an adverb, they come right after the word they modify. Number 8, the huge ice floes jammed against the pillars of the bridge. Prepositional phrase that is an adverb phrase. So look for the verb, first of all. Ice floes jammed. How, when, or where? Against the pillars, in parentheses, with an arrow to jammed, and then you're supposed to go back and on top of the word that they modify, put whether or not it's a verb, adjective, or an adverb. Jabbed is a verb. Number 10. You didn't bake the cake long enough. It's still gooey in the center. Adverb phrase. Well, look at the prepositional phrases. What do we have? The only one here is in the center. What does in the center modify? It says where it is gooey, right? To put parentheses around in the center. Arrow to gooey. And gooey is a what? Can you gooey? No, it's not a verb. It is an adjective, the predicate adjective. It is gooey. So gooey is an adjective. Number 12. He included in the South a great continent that he named Terra Australis Incognito, unknown southern land. Adverb phrase there, look for the verb included. Is a verb. In the South, where he included it. So in the South would be in parentheses with an arrow to included. Included is a verb. Make sure that lesson 2 is finished for Tuesday. Follow the directions carefully. Now let's go back and grade parts of lesson 1. So go back to lesson 1, page 1. Make sure you're finished with this before you hear the answers, please. Page 1, number 1. Underline the adjectives. Draw an arrow to the word. Draw an arrow from each to the word that it modifies. There can be lots of adjectives, okay? There will tend to be more adjectives than adverbs. Lots of adjectives. A, and the, always adjectives. So number 1, you should have underlined the talented, with both going to artist, arrows to artist. Extra ones are wrong. Mark it wrong if you didn't do one. If you have one underlined and don't have arrows to the right place, make sure that if you completely skip underlining one, it's just one wrong, okay? Because if you don't have an underline, you're not going to have an arrow either, right? The talented with arrows to artist. A, calm, peaceful. Underlined with arrows to seen. And the oil, underlined with arrows to painting. Number 3, Kevin's new. Underline with an arrow to bike. Kevin's new, underline with an arrow to bike, and that is all on number 3. Number 7, you are supposed to put parentheses around adjective phrases, prepositional phrases that modify nouns or pronouns. They come right after the words they modify every time, all right? Number 7, you just have from Christian Aid Ministries in parentheses with an arrow to representatives. At Donner's Mennonite is also a prepositional phrase, but it is an adverb phrase saying where they're speaking. You're not supposed to have those in parentheses. If you have extra ones in parentheses, mark it wrong. Only adjective phrases. So the only thing you do in number 7, from Christian Aid Ministries with an arrow to representatives. Number 11, of the quilts in parentheses with an arrow to several. At crafts and more in parentheses with an arrow to quilts. That is all for number 11. Turn the page. Number 15, bracket the dependent clause and underline the independent clause. The independent clause is the main idea of the sentence. The dependent clause is introduced with either a subordinated conjunction or a relative pronoun. Number 15, you should have in brackets. When Abel Tasman discovered an island in 1642. All of that in brackets. Underline the main idea of the sentence. He named it Van Diemen's Land. All right? Underline that last part. He named it Van Diemen's Land. Number 23. 2 or more independent clauses and 1 or more dependent clause is a compound complex sentence. CDCX. Number 25. 1 independent clause and 1 or more dependent clauses is a CX. Complex sentence. Number 29. Your diagram. This is a compound complex sentence. The first part, when Captain Cook landed on the eastern shore of Australia, that's your dependent clause in brackets. All right? And then you have a compound sentence. He claimed it for Britain, and it belonged to Britain until 1901. So the top line, very top line, he claimed it. Prepositional phrase under claimed for Britain. On the dotted line, going straight down, dotted line, and then you have a solid line and a dotted line down to another diagram. You should have and sitting on that chair there between the dotted lines. And then the dotted line that going straight down, that should be it belonged, prepositional phrases, to Britain until 1901. And those 2 prepositional phrases could be switched. And then, in this case, the dependent clause is the largest clause of the sentence, but it's still the dependent clause. On the slanted dotted line from claimed, you should have the subordinating conjunction when. Subject, Captain Cook, verb, landed. Prepositional phrase, on shore, the eastern, and then another prepositional phrase under shore of Australia. I think mostly you're doing well in these diagrams, especially if the diagram's given, it's fairly easy to figure them out, okay? But recognize these kinds of things and be able to diagram them even if the diagram is not given to you. They're pretty nice to you. Excuse me. And give you a number of these. Let's do the spelling. Clear my throat so that I can enunciate well. Number 31. To pronounce words and syllables distinctly, clearly, is enunciate. Comparison, saying that something is like something or as something. is a simile. An expression worn out by overuse is cliché. Cliché, redundant, and what else is it? Trite are kind of alike. So you have to watch them. But here you have the first letters, so that helps. Number 34, apostrophe shows possession used in contractions. Alliteration, repetition of the same letter or sound at the beginning of words. Same consonant sounds is what you're really looking for alliteration, but the big blue balloon, BBB, big blue balloon, like bang, there's another B. All right, 36, using too many words, repetitive is redundant, like he gave me a free gift. That is redundant because gifts are always what? Gifts are free. So avoid those kinds of words together. Free gift. The fast rocket. Rockets are all fast, okay? Some may be faster than others, but things like that. 37, clear and easy to understand, is lucid. 38 is metaphor. Mike was a great bear of a man. Well, Mike wasn't actually a bear, right? It's not a mixture between a man and a bear, but that gives you the picture of what Mike is. It's metaphor. Superlative, the highest degree of comparison. All right? You are good. He is better. Mr. Lauren is the best. Superlative. There you go. 40, the origin and history of a word is the etymology. We've learned that word before. Statement that gives the meaning of the word is the definition. That's number 41. Number 42, being able to express oneself easily and fluently. Eloquent. Words come easily. You're good at using words. Good at making yourself clear. Yeah. Eloquent. 43 is a thesaurus. The reference book contains synonyms and sometimes antonyms. So this is not a word. This is not a dictionary where you go for the definition, but you go to look for words that mean the same and sometimes words that are opposite. 44, worn out by constant use, no longer new or interesting, is trite. 45, an expression whose meaning is different from the usual meaning of the word in it is an idiom, like kick the bucket. All right? We know what kick the bucket means. We just know. The dog kicked the bucket, the dog died, right? But if you say that to someone who is trying to learn English, the dog kicked the bucket, then their picture is going to be of a dog literally kicking a bucket. They're going to be amazed. They didn't know the dogs kick buckets, right? They're not going to automatically think that, oh, the dog died. Yeah. No, they're going to get a picture in mind of a dog kicking a bucket. Those are idioms. And every country, every language, every people group probably has idioms that make sense to them, but if you're from the outside, it would make no sense at all. 46, a paradox. Statement that may be true, but seems to say the opposite thing. 47, composition. 48, vernacular. The native language of a country, everyday informal language. And the vernacular, that would have to do with idioms of a certain area, the way you talk, the way you use words, whether proper or not in different regions. It's just the native use in this area, that's the vernacular. An exaggerated statement not meant to be taken literally is hyperbole. The use of too many words, especially those that are useless or difficult to understand, verbiage. That would kind of have to do with redundant, not necessarily, but just using too many words, too wordy, things like that. Kind of like your teacher sometimes, I don't know. All right. Please carefully grade that. If you need to go over the video again to grade it well, and if you want to a while, you could put the number wrong on your quiz number 1. Quiz number 1 in the spelling score, you could put the number wrong from all those that we graded there. Please do that sometime. I will remind you on Friday of what you need to hand in. great day.